Welcome back to the Someday Readings channel with your host, the Someday Reader. And our goal here is to build a better stack of books so that when you get around to reading them someday, everyone's going to be a slice of literary gold. And with that in mind, we're going to leave the fog shrouded, seaweed choked horrors of the Bermuda Triangle, and we're going to go for sunnier climes in Napoleonic War Spain with C.S. Forester's The Gun. And you may recognize C.S. Forester as the author of the very famous, this is Someday Kitty. We know how cats are with books. Just a moment. Pardon me. Anyway, of the Horatio Hornblower series. And he wrote quite a large number of books. And the Hornblower series is what he's most famous for, but we're going to be talking about The Gun today. And The Gun opens with the Spanish army in retreat after the crushing defeat it suffered at the hands of the French at the Battle of Espinosa. And the Spanish army is retreating into the mountains. It's not an organized retreat. It's a rout. And they're being harried and harassed by French cavalry. And it's a miracle that a lot of them are making it to the mountains. And one of the best parts about this is an artillery unit has managed to hold on to its 18-pounder siege gun, which is a wonderfully built piece of artillery. It's a top quality item, and they have managed to retreat all the way to the mountains with this piece of artillery. And imagine the worst road you've ever been on in your life, then add about 3 feet of mud on top of it, and that is what they're trying to haul this big honking piece of metal up. And what happens is that it gets into a rut, keels over, and ends up laying on its side in the road. And at this point, their resolve has pretty much broken, and they cut the traces and they move on. Later, the local populace, after the retreating army is finally pushed off, they discovered this big obstruction in the middle of their highway that's holding up rush hour traffic, and they're trying to figure out a way. What should we do with this thing? So they go to the local priest, and the local priest says, "Well, obviously, we need to get this out of the road, and then we need to hide it, because the army in the future is going to need something like that. They're going to need that wonderful piece of artillery." And so they get it up, and they realize that they don't have any animals that can move it. One of their number does. He has a fine team of oxen and a fine wagon, and he puts up quite a fight that, hey, no, you're not going to use my oxen to pull this thing, because this is a huge piece of artillery. I mean, it's very big. And eventually he gives in, and they haul the gun to a disused stone quarry, and they pile stones on top of it to hide it. Well, in the intervening next 2 to 3 years, everyone involved in moving the gun that knows of its existence is killed off or captured by the French, and basically isn't in a position to do anything about the gun, except for the gentleman whose ox were drafted into moving it. And he has just terrible luck. Everything just sort of started falling apart for the guy, and he ended up with a band of guerrillas, or guerrilleros, led by a man named El Bill Benito, and which that means the little man from Bilbao. And El Bill Benito is the Spanish guerrillas. They fall into basically three categories. You have those who are fanatical patriots, and you have those who are in it for the money, and then you have a combination of the other two. And El Bill Benito is a bit more. He's a bit more for the money, and so are his men. And the problem is that they're in the mountains and they raid down into the plains. But the French have got everything pretty much locked down. Every river, every ford, every river, every stream, every ravine, basically anywhere where you can move a group of troops has got a fort around it, has got a fort there. Which means that if you want to raid further inland where the good stuff is found, you have to fight your way past a French fort. Which means you've got a French fort and all of its troops behind you. And then you've got another French fort in front of you. And El Bill Benito is standing. He's standing on a precipice, figuratively and literally. And he's looking down at the plains, and he's trying to think, how can we break this situation? Because his band has suffered a string of reverses. They're on the verge of deciding that they want another leader besides El Bill Benito, which generally means a pistol shot to the back. And while El Bill Benito is standing there looking over the Spanish plains, it's not specified in the text whether or not it's raining, but we can assume that at some point it probably was. And so El Bill Benito is standing there trying to think of how he can get his guys down there so that they can attack the French, loot the French, and not get slaughtered. And it's during this period where he's standing there trying to think of how am I going to save my command here and my skin at the same time, when his second in command comes up to him and says, "Look, we caught a couple of guys trying to sneak out of camp, and one of them says that he has information that he is willing to trade in exchange for not being killed for desertion. And it is our friend, the ox cart man." So El Bill Benito says, "Okay, I'll go talk to him." So he goes talk to him, and the guy tells him about the gun, and El Bill Benito, you know what? At this point, I'm willing to chance it. So they go to the disused stone quarry. They uncovered the gun, and it's there, much to everyone's surprise. And El Bill Benito has his gun guy look it over, and he says, "Everything's fine. It's a little green, but that's okay. It's made out of bronze. And the only problem is that the carriage is in terrible shape. We can't fire it because the carriage has just it's broken down. We need a new carriage." So El Bill Benito, the fine patriotic man that he is, and wonderful man of the people, press gangs the entire local population, all the blacksmiths, all the carpenters, into building a new carriage. Now, they're in the mountains of Spain. Good quality wood is at a premium, which means some people's homes and barns got to be dismantled in order to build this carriage. So they build the carriage. They set it up. They chip away some of the stones and they make a stone cannonball. And they load up almost all of the powder that they have and load the cannonball in. El Bill Benito, realizing that it's an all or nothing situation, takes the match, lights it to the touch hole, gun goes off, hits right where it's supposed to, stone cannonball shatters into a million pieces. And, of course, El Bill Benito standing there, probably with a big, wide, cartoonish grin on his face, powder, blackened face. And at this point, the cash register sound goes ka-ching, because now he has the means to deal with all of those French forts. Fate has handed him the tool that he needs to get the job done. Well, fate and the plot, but it's the same thing in a work of fiction. So he gets his literate guys to write letters to the government, which is called the junta, telling them, "Hey, I've got a gun. I have the means to take the fight to the French. I need powder, I need shot, I need whatever support you can give me, I need money, I need food." And he also writes letters to all of the other guerrilla leaders in the area and says, "Hey, I've got a gun. I'm now the only guerrilla leader in Spain with a big piece of artillery that can take the fight to the French. Come join me under my banner, and we're going to go down and take the French out." Now, at this point, I'm going to stop, obviously, because whether or not El Bill Benito's dreams and vision is realized is something that you're going to have to find out if you want to read this book, if by reading this book. So this book right here is a definite recommend. You should buy this. If you're a lover of military fiction in general, you're going to enjoy this. C.S. Forster has a interesting way with prose. It's very matter of fact. There's a lot of understatement in this, and it's the story is the way it's written. His style is entertaining, and the story itself is very engaging. And so this is a definite recommend. And where this should go in your stack is this should go toward the top. This should definitely be within 2 or 3 of the top of that stack of books that's going to sit there on that shelf and stare at you for the foreseeable future until you get around to reading it someday. And on that note, I'm going to say please like, subscribe, comment, hit that little bell thing for notifications, and excuse me, it's a Someday Kitty again. You know how cats are with books. And on that note, thank you very much for watching, and have a better one. Okay.